Well, they say everything is bigger in Texas, and that is especially true when it comes to the fishing, don't you think, Brie?
That's right, and whether you're a seasoned pro or a weekend warrior, our captains and guides have the tips, tricks, and insights you'll need for making those water weekend memories. So get ready to reel. This is the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back, fellow anglers, to another week on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're headed offshore to the deeper structures for snapper, inshore for some feisty trout and redfish, and of course, we've got hungry bass for our freshwater friends, right, Rick?
You know, Brie, the weather has finally settled in, and then it's allowing all of our user groups to be able to go do their thing.
Our user groups, I love it.
Whether, and sure, you just touched on all of them, and I'm going to tell you, you can hear it in the reports. You can hear it in all the captains' voices when you talk to them on the phone. They're really excited about the fishing they got coming.
Yep, and you can see it in the photos too. And as always, let's say hi to Dave Farrell at the workbench. Dave, what we got going on over there today?
Well, we're going to be talking to the offshore user groups today.
Nice.
Some red snapper action is what we're going to be talking about, trying to catch some red snapper on live baits and dead baits and not so live dead baits.
Well, it's definitely
all kinds of stuff.
Perfect timing for that. But we're starting this weekend off in the Fish Bites Middle Coast region, reeling in trout, redfish, and red snapper with Captain Bink Grimes. Go for it, Bink.
I tell you, the weather has been as good as I can remember for the last 3 weeks in May, and it's just been great fishing around here. The trout are beginning to slick on the shoreline. It's a sweet aroma. They were doing it this week. They were doing it this morning. It smells like fresh cut grass or watermelon, but it's a sheen that tells you if those fish are there, they're eating. A strong incoming tide has been great for topwater action. I've had some of the best topwater action I've had in years for the last 2 weeks. June's probably my favorite month to fish. We've got a lot of sweet southeast winds dominating. Trout would love to eat those topwaters and soft plastic bass assassins. Southeast winds are cooperate with a low barometer, and those fish just love a low barometer when they eat. Palacios shorelines and guts are holding trout over sand and grass on soft plastics. The North Shoreline reefs have been good around the barge and the Coon Island. San Antonio Bay has been good on bass assassin sea shad, and the topwater bite's been good on mirror shoe dogs and pink bone and chartreuse. Same patterns holding along the South Shoreline of West Matagorda Bay. Reefs and sand and grass pockets are holding trout on mirror sheep pups. And Rockport Corkies continue to coax a lot of fish around Mud Island and Trader Island. Super Flats around Port Aransas has been good on the incoming tide. Again, look for slicks coming through the Lydia Ann Channel, Caust, and Window. In Port O'Connor, reefs around Ayers Dugout and Panther Point have been good on bass assassins and topwaters. Sand and grass pockets are holding good trout on that incoming tide. Trout action around Cold Pass and San Luis Pass has been good on topwaters. The surf has been fish and flat and fishable for probably 2 weeks now, which is not the norm. It's a bonus, but we've had 2 weeks of good surf fishing, and we hadn't even got to June yet, so it looks really good. Photo there, East Matagorda Bay trout was duped while drifting over shell in 5 to 6 foot of water. It was gently released back to the fertile waters of Matagorda Bay to propagate and give us more and more speckled trout. Redfish action, people love to catch them. Good pattern lately, unless you're hanging out the jetty. There's a lot of fish there at the jetty. Higher tides have encouraged those redfish on the grass lines in the bay. They're eating shrimp. They're rooting out shrimp. In Matagorda, most boaters are hitting the points and structures along the South Shoreline with live shrimp. That incoming tide in the morning has been a boon for it. Bull redfish all over the beaches and jetties. Recent calm conditions in the Gulf have allowed surf anglers miles of beach. There's a lot of big bulls schooling about 2 miles off the beach, and then they're coming up and just gulping anything, and they're 25 and 30 pounders. Guys on foot are tossing big chunks of crab and mullet in the first gut at high tide, while jetty anglers are working the ocean side on the incoming, and then they work the channel side on the outgoing. Redfish has saved the day for many captains this time of year when it blows 15 knots. Those high tides are putting people in the back lakes, but we hadn't had to deal. We know the wind's going to eventually blow. We're hoping it doesn't, but it's going to eventually blow sometime, so we're going to get back in those back lakes because there's still a lot of big redfish back there. Offshore, federal red snapper season opens Thursday, June 1st. Prospects look promising. state snapper trips have been fruitful lately, so the longer runs should produce larger fish. And as a reminder, only 2 snapper may be harvested in federal waters, while 4 are allowed in state waters. However, no more than 4 fish can be in possession, even if half of that limit was caught in federal waters. Abide by the laws, ladies and gentlemen. It's there for a reason. Our conservation. Let's really take the time and do what's right. Guide Michael Quebec is still getting after those swordfish. They're steady 18 miles out. Weather has been good, most conducive for long runs for those swords. Man, there's just been a lot of swordfish coming in. So we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna keep going offshore. We're gonna keep throwing top waters. It's June, my favorite time of the year. That's another great week in the Middle Coast. Please make a conscious effort to practice conservation, and please release more than you take.
Thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Bink says that inshore, guys, you can find trout while wading with bass assassins on the sand and the grass flats near the passes, and the redfish are at the jetties on fresh menhaden and shrimps. Then offshore, red snappers are good offshore in 60 to 80 feet of water, and I bet you can catch those red snappers on just about anything, Brie.
Probably. I loved how he said the fertile waters of Matagorda Bay.
Yes.
He is not wrong. All right, let's travel a little further south into the lower coast region with Captain Chad Kinney. Tell us what's on the weekend menu, Chad.
I'll tell you what, same thing like Bink concurring on that. The weather's been just awesome. We're getting some, which really helps the bay system and especially offshore, especially for any other smaller boats or big boats. It's just everything's lining up great. So we're going to go with the inshore first. The trout bite we've been talking about for a while down here is remaining excellent along the King Ranch shoreline. This is because of the winds and the better weather. And some redfish are showing up at the jetties with these calmer winds and seas conditions. They're out the jetties there, moving there from like Port A to South Padre, even Port Mansfield. So talking about trout fishing, it's been really, really good. Some of the best I've seen in quite a while down here. That King Ranch shoreline has been holding them. Like I said, with a better watercolor, you see trout being water everywhere like that, and the winds have been light. Live croaker's working really well. You can free line it on that stuff there early if you're wade fishing. I love using a mirror lure Top Dog Junior. That's working really well up along the shorelines. If you're moving out deeper to deeper grass beds off the shoreline, that 4 to 5 foot of water, then get a saltwater assassin sea shad out, like been using the chicken on the chain and color or magic grass, and use that with an eagle claw 1/8 ounce jig head. Works really good. There's plenty of trout in that slot size. Then there's also some really big trophy trout being caught. As far as down here, remember, there's 17 to 23 inches our slot size. They're going to be reviewing that come August. I'll keep you posted on that. But 17 to 23 inch on the lower coast here, and 3 per person. So, you release the really big ones and take what you want for dinner. Got a picture here of Slam Dunk Charters. It's my wife, Erica, actually. They went out fun fishing, so he runs a 25x3, and she just released that 30-inch trout.
Wow, that's a slam dunk right there in the picture.
You got that right. James is a good guide. He's down here, so hit me up if you guys want to talk to him. So we're moving to redfish, like Bink said. Same thing down here. There's not really huge numbers, but they're definitely the redfish showing up on the lower coast jetties, which is really good. South Padres down on Port A, Port Mansfield. You can actually pitch some live croaker out working well with these guys, or you can actually definitely go over, use your Rodan trolling motor, lock into a spot, anchor lock it over some of these big washouts, and go to a 3/4 ounce jig head, or even up to a 1 ounce jig head, depending on the current. Like I said, when you anchor lock that Rodan, it just works perfect right there. It holds you right there, and you can actually just vertically jig, or you can cast to the jigs, but vertically jigging's actually been working really good. You can attach a fish bite to that and work really good. You got to be kind of patient on these guys. They're definitely moving on the tidal changes. Bink mentioned that too. Same thing down here. Incoming, outgoing times, wait for those changes, works really good. And those fish are going to move in and out of those washouts, and they actually kind of seem to follow the whole rocks all the way around. So you got 3-4 guys fishing, you might have quadruple knockdowns and then nothing for 20-30 minutes. If you're patient, definitely reward you on that one. Moving over to offshore, state water snapper fishing remains open year-round, but the federal season does open June 1st here, so which is really good. That should be going through to the end of August there. And some kingfish, with this warmer weather, they're showing up around some structure, and they're actually at the lower coast jetties also. That's turned on. Talking about the federal season, like I said, on snapper, kicks off June 1st. It's time to head up to some deeper structure. It's going to be loaded out there. There's plenty of red snapper on that federal area. You can look for oil rigs, wrecks, natural structure. Those fish will even hold up to 300 to 400 foot deep out there. But a lot of these locations in the federal waters, you can hit them in that 100 to 130, 150 foot deep, and those fish lots of times are suspended. if I get them suspended like that, take a little extra chum, toss it out, those fish will really rise up in that water column. Then I like to use that Eagle Claw trocar hook. It's a really great hook, and you can get that jig in a 1 to 3 ounce. And just find out what depth they're at, just pitch it over, release it down, hit the middle water column, and they're going to just hammer that. Just some side info on snapper. I've done a bunch of studying and stuff and some research for Hart Institute and some other guys like that. A lot of these fish in that 18 to 20 inch range I learned, which was pretty good info. I just shared it to you guys. They're like 4 to 5 years old, and they produce about 20% of the eggs that the bigger fish. The big ones are 15, 20 pounders. They're like 15-year-olds plus, and they produce the majority of the eggs. So if you're out there in federal waters, take 2 for dinner, and if you can, those bigger ones even, if they're suspended, they're going to be in good shape. They're not going to be, you not have to equalize them or anything. You can just toss them over and release them. They'll be in good shape there. Got a picture of a good red snapper we just caught here in the state waters on the Bam Bam, and we'll be heading out deeper this week for some other ones. Moving over to kingfish, we haven't talked a whole bunch, but they're definitely showing up in the water warmers. What the warmers coming in, the warmer waters. So good bite at South Padre Island jetties. Talked to some guys on there. They're actually fishing from the jetties. They're doing really good, and of course, anything the Mansfield jetties here is good. Oil rigs, any structure you got in there in state waters works good. Troll mirror lure divers at about 5 to 6 knots works really good with this stuff, and definitely rig it with a wire leader. As far as a terminal or any tack like that, I've been using that Penn Torque 30 for several years. It works really, really good. Put that 30-pound blue Momoy mono on it, and it works great. Just remember, these guys are really toothy, so be careful when you handle them and when you're landing them. And also check your leaders for any kinks or anything else like that in your wires, after each catch you get there. So I got a cool picture here. I got a Shallow Sport Classic at 24. This is a classic boat. They went out of the Port Mansfield jetties, and Tanner Wind landed this a nice spinning rod out there at the jetties.
That's nice. That's cool when that color change moves right in there to the jetties, Chad. That's really cool.
No, it's beautiful. It never gets old.
All right, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boat hotspots from the lower coast region. Our man says head to the King Ranch shoreline for great trout action with the lighter winds and plenty of slot trout and some trophies mixed in there. The redfish have started to show up along the lower coast jetties. And then offshore, federal season opens on June 1st for the red snappers. And the kingfish are around the jetties and some nearby structure.
All right, well, the upper fresh region is in our sights next. But first, Dave is playing over at the CCA workbench, getting ready for rigs and techniques just in time for June 1st.
Yes.
Snapper season.
And that's why we're going to be talking about the red snappers, because everybody wants to catch one and take one home for din din.
Yep, I know I do.
They're pretty to look at and they're good to eat.
Yes, they are.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And SKEETER Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, Dave, you teased us and let us know that we were going to be talking about some snappers over here, so let's just get right into it.
Yeah, man. We're going to say once more, that the season's open up June 1st, and, you can only keep 2 per person when you're out there in the federal waters past 9 miles. Inside of 9 miles, you can keep 4, but that doesn't mean you can keep 6. You can go out there and catch 2 and 4. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Don't
come in with more than 4, just like Chad was just telling you. This is one of the most sought-after bottom fish. Groupers and these little red snappers are probably the ones that everybody wants to catch. They're really good to eat. They have a whole lot of meat on them for how big they are. They fight hard. They're usually very willing to eat once you find them.
Right.
You can find a whole lot of them at one time. Usually you're getting into a bunch of them when you do find them. And like I said, they eat readily. They respond well to chum. So if you're going to go out there, a couple of chum bags over the side's going to help anchor up of the, up current of the rig or the wreck or whatever that you mark the fish on. That's normally how people find them. They get over some nice hard bottom that they know about and try to mark fish. A lot of times though, you don't have to mark fish for fish to be there.
Right.
It's kind of weird. You'll see, a lot of fish on top of a wreck sometimes, and you'll go down there and you can't get a bite. And sometimes you'll go to that same wreck and you're not marking much of anything. You'll send a couple of baits down and boom, you'll catch a couple big ones or something.
Right.
So, always give it a try. If you've made the effort to get to a spot, go ahead and make a couple of drops. Even before you put your chum out and stuff, because the fish, if they're there, they'll be really eager to bite real quickly when something gets down there. Right. Those first couple of baits, especially.
Right.
And if you use a big bait, you'll weed out some of the smaller fish, especially right off the bat, because the little fish will come in there to tear up that big old bait, and the bigger snapper will see that commotion and rush in there and eat the big bait that the little guys can't eat, and that's how you'll catch a big one.
And the
sometimes.
other thing that happens too is remember this, guys, the littler fish are really going to be tight in the school for safety reasons.
Right.
And so a lot of times you can catch the big fish on the edge of that. So if you know where the wreck is, you drive over the wreck or the structure and you mark that big cloud of fish. Maybe you want to fish right before you get to that and right after you pass that with that big bait. And that's when you'll find those bigger fish as well.
And like I said before, once you make those first couple of drops and maybe you get bit, maybe you don't, you can back up a little bit up current and then put your chum out. And then, if there's a lot of fish on the wreck and you put a whole lot of chum out, sometimes you can get them right up close to the surface, and they'll eat all kinds of stuff. Now, we're going to usually target them with a fish finder rig for single fish, for a single big fish.
Right.
You're going to use a fish finder rig with a big bait on it, either a whole squid or a skeleton of a butterfly jack or something. Biggest red snapper I ever caught, I caught on a whole Alacamo jack that was just butterflied on a big weight like that, drifting over a good bottom. Now, if you're in a place where there's a whole lot of fish, in a wreck size, little, keeper-sized fish, just in the min, and you can get a bunch of them, then you go to something like a chicken rig where you can catch 2 at a time.
Right.
Use a 100-pound test leader, if you're catching these smaller fish. Chad, he likes to use big fat leaders no matter what, because he likes to sling the fish over, and it's easier on his hands. He doesn't have to wear a glove with 200-pound.
Right.
But when you're using little, lighter
80
stuff,
pound,
it can hurt. It can cut you. So he likes to use great big fat leaders. He's usually not worrying about getting a bite because once he gets the chum out, they're going to come and bite pretty good. I always try to use a circle hook. That's it goes without saying nowadays. If I'm fishing on the bottom, I'm going to be using a monofilament leader with a circle hook with braided main line. And the reason being is because when you're using braided line, you're going to feel everything.
Right.
I've deep dropped in 1,900 feet of water, and you could feel little bait fish ticking on the bait when you're using braid.
Right.
And you can't really do that with mono. So when you've got put you some 60-pound diamond braid out on a little Pen 20 or a 40 squall, let's say.
Right.
Something that has up to about. You don't need a whole ton of drag. If you've got 20 or 30 pounds of drag on there, it's probably not gonna. And none of these red snapper are probably gonna pull that off. And you wanna lock it down pretty good and get those fish coming to you. Once you get their head up coming to you, don't stop winding. Try to keep that little short pumps. Don't go over your eyes. Don't be lifting real high. Shorts from the water to your eyeballs. And little short pumps and keep them going. Wind and pump. Wind and pump.
And remember this, guys, if you want to catch a fish jigging or on artificial, you want to fish your artificials when you first get there, before you introduce the bait, because you're going to catch some more aggressive fish on the artificials, and the less aggressive, you might have to use the bait.
Right.
But the fish bites are going to tease them and trick them off.
It makes them eat for some reason.
It certainly does.
Wow, guys, that was a very informative session. I enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Thank you, Brie.
That's the point, right? All right, the Upper Fresh region is really showing up this week, especially on Possum Kingdom, Athens, and of course Lake Fork. So let's see what our attack plan is with Mike McFarland. Go for it, Mike.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, definitely good bass fishing up here in the Upper Fresh. Let's start with a new one that I haven't talked about. Ray Hubbard with Joe Shipley and Texas Frenzy Bass Guide Service. Hubbard is doing okay. Fishing's pretty fair there with topwater walking baits used early on the rocky points and aluminum marina walls. Later in the day, you can find them on rock structures with 8 to 15 feet of water using 3 16th-ounce shaky heads with 6-inch green pumpkin trick worms, and or fish the same structure with football jigs in the color PB&J, which is peanut butter and jelly. And the best trailer for that is a Bass Assassin Whoop-A Craw trailer. I like the green pumpkin. If you like crankbaits, you can also throw fire tiger color crankbaits, and those are catching some nice fish on Hubbard as well. Let's go on to Possum Kingdom with Pete Hernandez. Great fishing there. Water temperature 73, 75. Clarity 5 to 8 foot visibility from Sandy Beach all the way to Hell's Gate. 10 to 12-inch worms, jigs, medium diving crankbaits, and shad patterns, all fished off of points and ledges leading from out of those spawning areas. They're holding a lot of post-spawn bass. Early, you can also catch some topwater fish, walking baits like the Berkeley Jaywalker and the Berkeley Poppers like the Bullet Pop. Those are catching some nice fish early and late. And the bass are definitely schooling up on shad on the points, adjacent pockets in the main lake channel. How about Lake Athens? Bass fishing on Athens with Jay Bonner. 78 degrees there as well. Bass are being caught on Bass Assassins in the early morning. There's also a little bit of topwater action there, but you're better off to just stay with the Bass Assassins in shad colors. Once the day heats up, fish the grass lines in 10 to 15 foot with jigs, Carolina rigs, shaky head rigged worms. You can also target some of those deeper brush piles and catch some really nice bass on Athens. My home lake where I guide, Lake Fork. Lake level 402.34, temperature 76 to 80 degrees. Bass continues to be excellent here. Topwater baits early and late, like the Berkeley Bullet Pop or the Berkeley Jaywalker on shallow points and flats, continue catching big bass, big bass, especially in the early mornings. After 9 o'clock, I'm moving out into about 14 foot of water, and I'm using brim-colored football jigs, again with the Bass Assassin Whoop-A Craw trailer. I really like this Whoop-A Craw trailer. It's really got a lot of action. Green pumpkin, sometimes dipped them in chartreuse. Also using Texas rigs and shaky head worms with a Bass Assassin 11-inch worm in the color plum. And here's one of these giant bass that come out of Lake Fork that I caught with my client. My client caught this just last week.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right, what else you got for us, bud?
Let's tell you about crappie. Possum Kingdom. Crappie's fair there. They're back under the docks and suspended in trees in 20 to 30 feet of water. Jigs and minnows. Ray Hubbard, haven't talked about that before. Joe Shipley says the crappies there are doing fair with minnows and black and chartreuse jigs around floating docks and brush piles in the marinas. Lake Tawakoni, I've not given you anything there for crappie ever before. Matt Cartwright says they're showing up on the docks, and minnows and hand-tied jigs are catching them very good there on Tawakoni. And then, of course, Lake Fork with Jackie Wiggins. Jackie says it's just Lake Fork keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter as the temperatures do. The fish are loading up in trees, 18 to 28 feet of water. Also, the bridges are a great place on sunny days. It gives you a chance to go get out of the heat midday. You may have to search around a little bit on the columns, on the bridge columns, but the bridges are holding good fish where small hand-tied jigs and minnows have been producing the best. And here, as usual, is another great day's catch with Jackie Wiggins.
Nice. All right, what else you got for us this week, bub?
Let's give you some stripers on hybrids and white bass. Matt Cartwright says Lake Tawakoni is pretty darn good. Water temperatures in the main lake are 76 degrees. The sand bass and hybrids are schooling at Sun and Wolf Point every morning, early and late. Slab spoons and small swim baits are making for easy limits. And these are some big fish. Here's another couple of fish from Matt Cartwright. Notice how big this hybrid is. That's not a striper, that's a hybrid.
Wow. That looks good, man.
Wow.
What about this picture of all these fish laying on the fish cleaning dock?
He's got some cleaning to do, I'm telling you. He's killing those fish every day, and I can't imagine how good he must be with a knife.
Yeah.
Because he's doing that every single day.
That's great.
All right, well, tell us real quickly about the catfish.
Catfish at Tawakoni, Matt says every point and hump in the 10 to 15 foot cut shad. And then let's go ahead and tell you Lake Fork. If you'll bait a hole in Lake Fork with sour maize, I'm telling you, you can blindfold yourself. Go out and just drop some bait in a hole, make a waypoint where you were, sour maize, come back the next day, you will catch your limit, which is 25 per person, in less than an hour. Less than an hour. Any bait, catfish bait, chum bait, night crawler's liver, whatever you want.
All right, man, sounds like a pretty good report this week. You covered it all. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. Our man Mike says the Lake Possum Kingdom is where all the great mixed bag of largemouth stripers, white bass are being caught early and late, shad-colored topwater lures like the Berkeley Jaywalker 120 and the Berkeley Bullet Pop 70. That's gonna work the best.
Well, speaking of Mike McFarland's favorite lake, coming up June 8th, which is right around the corner, is everyone's favorite Lake Fork event, the SKEETER Owners Tournament. If you're catching big bass, you're winning big. And this year, not only one boat will be given away, but two. An FXR Apex Anniversary boat for the largest over and a ZX 150 for the largest under. This individual tournament is limited to 3 anglers per boat with a ladies and junior division as well. To register, head to skeeterboats.com. That's going to be a fun event.
I'm gonna be in Texas that week, but I won't be bass fishing. I'm gonna be fishing the redfish on the jetties in Port Arthur.
Fun.
Yeah, man.
All right, well, our front runner boats Upper Coast and Lower French Region captains have a lot to talk about when we come back. But before we go, make sure to take a look at the QR code on your screen and scan for an all-access pass to our social media outlets where you can like and follow our Instagram and Facebook pages, all 5 of them, and to see all new fishing adventures, tips, and reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
My power pole shallow water anchors make it a lot easier for catching bait, and that's something I do 9-10 months out of the year for my fishing charters. First thing I like to do is observe which way the wind's coming from before I set the boat up and put my power poles down to catch bait. I use my power pole to anchor the boat up current from the flat or the drop-off edge where the bait is holding. I start throwing a little bit of chum out to bring the bait in close to the boat. Power pole holds me in position the entire time I'm doing this. It's even easy to throw the net off the back of the boat because the power pole anchors are down and out of the way when I deploy them. Best part is when I'm done, I can rinse the boat off, raise the power pole anchors, and move on. You know, before power pole, I used to have to drag a muddy anchor rope, chain, and anchor into the boat. Not anymore. Power pole, swift, silent, secure. And that's your power pole tip.
Say.
Swift, silent, secure.
That's it.
Loving it. All right, your fun weekend is waiting for you in the Front Runner Boats Upper Coast region. So let's see what our species list is with Captain Carl Weston. Hi, Carl.
Hey guys, we're gonna dive right off into redfish. They've topped our list again this week in the Upper Coast. Go from Sabine Lake to West Galveston Bay and all the points in between. The early morning bite has been good over there around the oyster reefs and the ditches that lead back out to those open water areas. You know, gold spoons and topwater hardbaits have been our artificial choice in the morning. That Berkeley Magic Swimmer is gold to go over the week. For live bait options, shrimp or small finger mullet or popping cork, live bait has become easier to find as the water heats up a little bit, cleans up a little bit. They're moving around a lot more. Now, as you move out a little further, the bull reds remain steady along the beachfront and around the jetty mouths on live shad and fresh cut bait. There are a few schools of slot reds at Sabine Lake making their way around the shores. Watch for the birds over there in the bait in the early mornings over there along the jetties. If you see them on top in the bait schools, kill your motor and just ease in front of the school using your Rodan and cast towards the fish like we were just talking about, or use your power pole. Excuse me. Here's a picture of Wesley with a nice redfish he caught this week.
Nice.
Bouncing over to sheep's head, something we don't talk a lot about, but a lot of people fish for them. They're easy to catch. They're in a lot of areas. They're picking up as well. I would say with the influx of cleaner water has improved all of our inshore fishing the last few weeks. It should prove to even get better as it moves on and gets into our summer menu here. Sheep's head are always around structures, guys. You know, bridge pilings, docks, buoys along the rocks, grass near the jetties. bait options are shrimp and squid for me. Now, these fish are little bait robbers from the word go. You got to hold the rod, keep a tight line, be ready to raise your rod, feel that nibble. If you miss the fish, be ready to rebait, try again. Use a very light tip rod. Use a Fenwick. Fenwick makes an 8-foot rod with a beautiful tip, matched with a pen spinner. Hey, this is going to improve your hook ratio if you use a nice limber pole with a good tip. So young anglers as well, give them a try. These fish are a blast to catch. Try tipping your hook with a little fish bite. Like we talk about in every nature of our fishing, natural bait is great, but it bounces off the hook quick, and that fish bite will give you another shot. I have a picture today of Carrie with a nice sheep's head.
Nice.
Now, bouncing offshore, we've all been waiting all year. Red snapper. It's coming up this week, back on the menu, so here we go. These guys should be easy to find the first few weeks. They've been all winter waiting for you to run out there and catch them. And we've seen some big ones this winter fishing, catching and releasing on some of the holes, so we know there's some big fish. Now, the fish in the 100 to 160-foot range have been a bit bigger early on, but the bottom structure in our area holds large schools of these fish. If you're going fishing on top of the spot and you know that there's a good spot, no one's around, in your front runner, hey, just sit out there, hit your Rodan, and catch your limit and go home. You know, it won't take you long. That thing is really made life easy. My rig consists of a 2-foot piece of 80-pound diamond leader with a 12-ounce egg sinker and an 8-aught Trocar circle hook. I make them myself. They're hard to beat. Like we just talked about, no matter what you're using, it's my cheat. I use fish bites on the hook first. It just gives you that extra bite because most of the time, these fish, when they're in a school, you'll miss half of them if you just have a piece of squid. Anyway, get ready for some ceviche, folks, and a smooth glass of tin whiskey. Enjoy the first week of snapper season. It's going to be fun. The picture of old Mario here with a feisty little red snapper.
Nice.
Moving on to Dorado, guys. They're picking up. Couldn't pass up them this week. Hitting the weed lines. The water's cleaning up. There's getting to be a little more debris gathered up in the current break. So right now in the 200 depth range, we have some beautiful blue water pushing in from the east. And as you know, the weeds and debris gather up along that. And if you find the bait, this is going to be some serious fishing this summer, guys. Finding the bait along these weed lines will also give you a sign of whatever is in there. Whatever the birds are watching, the birds are dipping. You know you got a good spot. Start trolling there. Keep your speed about 6 to 9 knots. Finding the sweet spot, that speed is always key. Get strikes on a little faster, longer line, deeper line, shorter line. Just use that as a gauge to set your lines to that point. Not having any luck hooking up, use smaller bait. Sometimes these fish are smaller earlier. And in addition to that, R&R makes a great mahi magnet in a 4 3/4 inch length, which is great for the smaller mahi we catch early in the year. So we have a picture of Danny today with a nice little mahi of the size you'll be catching early.
All right.
Look at that facial expression. I love it.
He's saying, I wish it was a little bigger, but I'll take it.
It's a mahi-sicle. Yum, yum.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Upper Coast hotspots from the Front Runner Boats region. Inshore, it says chasing redfish along the beachfront and around the jetty mouths on live shad and fresh cut bait. And then offshore, red snappers in 100 to 160 foot range along the bottom structure. On the top of the spot, the fish are thick but smaller. So let your Front Runner boat drift off the edge and get the bigger size fish that are on the outskirts of the structure. How about that?
I believe you've said that already.
I did.
So you must be right. All right, big fish and big fun is coming out of the lower fresh region on Choke Canyon, Lake Travis, Bastrop, Decker, Somerville, Fayette County, and the tried and true Falcon. So Matt, let's get to it.
All right, got a bunch of bass to talk about this week. Mike Bates sent me a report from Choke Canyon. The lake level has come up about 1.5 feet, which is a great thing. The rising water has helped some of the hydrilla start to grow. Most of the bass entered are the smaller variety right now, but it's a good start. Most of the bass in that 2 to 5 feet of water are just 2 or 3 pounders. You occasionally catch a bigger one mixed in. Shad imitations are your best shot there. Also, and a Texas rig, a general has been catching a bunch of them. The deeper bass have really showed up the last 2 weeks there. That 10 to 20 feet range is a magic number. Texas rig, Carolina rig, and deep diving crankbaits have been working. All of them have. Colors don't seem to really matter. Just being in the right place at the right time has been the ticket. When those big bass move up out of the deeper channels, he's having a ton of fun. The numbers have been down a little bit, but he's caught some really big ones, up to 11 pounds in this last week.
Wow.
Yeah. Brian Cotter sent a report from the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing good. Texas rig soft plastics are working best right near the deep drops on the main lake points and on the bluff walls. Also, there's a few fish out on the ledges in that 15 to 30 feet of water that are biting a football jig. Early in the morning, the top waters along the bluffs have also been getting some really good bites. There's some fish beginning to school up in the deep marinas where they're going to start schooling for the summer. Pay attention early in the morning. You may see them busting on top. Decker Lake, fishing well. Soft plastic worms, and creature baits along the grass lines at 5 to 10 feet have been doing best. Some of the bigger ones are showing up out off that grass line in the 15-foot range. Lake Bass Drive's fishing good. You look for the schooling bass early in the discharge. You get hot water discharge over there. They're on the power plant. Throw small swim baits and clear top waters to get those schooling fish to bite. Later, you can move out off the dam. That's where they seem to be coming up later in the day. Use the same baits when you find them. There's also some good ones out off the grass line on a Texas rig worm if you want to do something different. Greg Boyd sent a report from Somerville. Largemouth over there biting well early and late. Lipless cranks and square bill crankbaits have been working well around the rocks. Frogs, hollow belly frogs have been good in the flooded brush on the west end of the lake. Green pumpkin and dark color stick baits are also catching those fish when they get finicky and don't want to come up and bite that frog. Fayette County has been really solid this week. There's lots of fish on the outside of the reed lines early in the morning, biting all variety of shad imitations. Also bite a frog up there if you want to try to get them to come up and bite on top. Mid-morning, you'll move on out on the main lake, check the drop-offs and also the rock bars there out in front of the discharge. They're all holding fish in that 15 to 25 feet of water. Your soft plastic best color has been green pumpkin with gold flake and watermelon candy. Down at Falcon, it's been a little in a weird mood this week. We've had a 12-foot rise. They sucked a whole bunch of water out early for irrigation, and we got water back, and we've come up 12 feet in the last few weeks. That's got the fish scattered around. There was a shallow bite up until about a week ago in that green cover. That has disappeared on me in the last few days. The flooded vegetation has begun to sour, which shuts that bite down. My best results have been in that 14 to 18 feet of water on shaky heads with a finesse worm and on a Texas rig with a big worm. It's been really hard to get a bite before 1 o'clock, but after that it's been really good. Got 3 pictures there from Falcon this week. We got Daryl, Jeff, and young Gavin, all of them with big old Falcon specials.
All right, tell us about the hybrids, bub.
All right, Lake Somerville, the white bass and hybrids are taking advantage of the shad right now. Look for surface schooling activity. Watch for the birds. It'll lead you to them. Top water poppers and small walking baits are great when they're up. When they're down, use your electronics and throw a chartreuse and white slab to them and catch them in that 15 to 20 feet of water and get you a good limit.
All right, well, thank you for all the reports as well as the pictures. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower fresh hot spots. He says Choke Canyon has been the best lake this week. The rise in water has pushed some of the fish shallow where they're aggressively feeding on the shad. Copy the forage for the good numbers and then make sure that the deep bite on Texas rig, Carolina rigs, and big crankbaits has been the ticket for the numerous big ones. And then load up and come take your shot at them.
All right, we're checking out what the StarTron Middle Fresh region is blessing us with this weekend. But first, Dave is blessing us with some new products at the workbench.
Dave.
That's a lot of blessings.
Yeah, this is pretty. I'd put this on my Christmas tree.
It is pretty.
Yeah, this is really nice. This is one of the most effective baits in all the world, the Sea Witch, and this is a new version from Island Lures.
In all the world.
All the world.
Best
All the
bait in the
world.
world. There we go.
That's saying a lot from Big Dave.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win, Fenwick, Feel Everything, Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line, Island Lures, Tournament Tackle, turn on the bite anytime, tie on a Miro Lure, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA, and StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron.
Well, my favorite time to troll the edge with Taco Marine, and that is right here at the workbench, Dave.
Yep, we're going to start off over there with something that really makes a messy job a lot easier and a lot less messy. You know, it's a 12-volt oil changer from TH Marine, and you know, when you're changing oil on a big motor, anything exactly, it can be a pain, and this thing really makes it a lot easier. You know, it sucks out the oil from your dipstick, and this is should only be used on a warm motor. 110, 120 degrees, because this thing doesn't suck cold stuff up very well. It's made to suck up warm motor oil, not water, not anything else.
That's right.
Because I'd be tempted to use it for all kinds of stuff, but it's not made for that. And, it needs the warm oil to lubricate the motor and all that kind of stuff. So don't try to use it on anything else. It's self-priming, comes with a 10-inch heavy-duty coiled battery clips, so it'll reach your battery a long way. It's got a 4-foot inlet hose and a 5-foot outlet hose.
Right.
And like I said, it extracts all that warm oil straight out of your dipstick and puts it in a bucket or wherever you want it to go. And you don't have to mess with it.
This really works well. And what we do is we just start up the motor and let it run on the hose for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then shut her all down and immediately start changing the oil.
Boom. THMarineSupplies.com to get one of those.
All right.
Make your life easy and cleaner. Okay, next we're going to talk about the StarTron Ring Clean Plus. StarTron has come up with this system. They've got 3 different products, start, run, and store, each with their own little product. But today we're just going to talk about the Ring Clean Plus, because when you take your boat out of storage here in the spring, it's been sitting for a long time, might have some gunk and buildup inside. Well, the Ring Clean really goes in there and works on those deposits. It has a special enzyme in there that eats up all that stuff, and it keeps it from coming back. Right. So, it's good for deposit control, and it cleans your carbs, your injectors, your whole fuel system, and all your combustion changers. That little bottle right there will clean 106. Well, I think that one treats 80 gallons.
80 ounces.
Yeah, an ounce to 10 gallons, and you just do that one right when you pull your boat out for the start using it.
All right.
Next, we have some island lure, Sea Witch. It's called the Island Witch. A Sea Witch. I don't know if you've done a lot of offshore fishing, but a Sea Witch is a great little thing to put on a mullet, a ballyhoo, anything to add some shine or some color to your dead baits while you're making them swim. And I've caught a lot of wahoos on Sea Witches, and this is a really nice kind of Sea Witch called the Island Witch, made from Island Lures. This is the half-ounce version. It's got nice big eyeballs on it. It comes in a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce, and it's made with the Mylar, so it gives everything a really nice shine. And 6.75 inches long, so it'll go all the way down to nice size ballyhoo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Really works well. I love the fact that they tie it so that it's reversed. So
it pulses
gets
in the
all
water.
kinds of
ShopMirrorLure.com.
Jubilate.
One of those. Next, we got some knock and tail lures. These are from Katy, Texas. These are it's pretty much, we've had some of these on here before, but this is a new color right here called the Rogue. It's the new color in the 4-inch. Really nice color. Anything will eat these things. Trout, redfish, It's got a nice little rattle in the tail because it's called knock and tail lures. It's got a rattle that's built into the tail. And they've also come out with these new chrome-plated jig heads as well that thing's on. And comes in a 3.5, a 4, and a 5-inch.
Yep.
So you can go to Knock and Tail Lures and get you some of those. Fish you in some. I didn't rig that very well. I was off center. I hate it when I do that.
That's all right, Bree.
Knock and Tail Lures.
Bree, we're knocking tail over here.
Yeah, you are. All right, our last guide has a lot to talk about in the Star-Tronic Middle Fresh region, especially on Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, and Richland Chambers. So let's see what Matt Loescher says we're catching. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Bree. Yeah, we're talking a lot of transitions right now with all the different species, and we're going to touch on a lot of different ones. So I'm going to jump right into it on Toledo Bend with the largemouth bass first. And, there's a lot of big fish that are still being caught here at Toledo Bend, even, into the post-spawn phase here that we're in now and going into the early summer. The water level has been on the fall thanks to a dry week that we've had and some pretty heavy generation through the dam. The water temperature's holding in the upper 70s to low 80s, and the water's been slightly stained. There's been a lot of those 7 to 9 pounders caught this past few weeks. So some good fish coming in the boats. But, the fish have not been giving themselves up easy. They're a little bit spread out, but those who are willing to work at it and cover some water are definitely catching quality fish. A lot of them have still been caught up shallow because the water's still fairly high, and they're holding up around those cypress trees and grass and bushes and things like that. But then there's some being, caught out deeper as well that have already transitioned out to those deeper areas, and that should continue to get better as the water continues to fall. A frog has continued to be the most productive bait for the big bites up shallow, and then, of course, like a weightless stickworm is always good, like that bass has some fat job. Then out deep, a shaky head worm drug around the bottom nice and slow in about 10 to 20 foot of water has been the best bite. Now, just keep in mind, there's not one pattern here that's just really dominating. So there's fish being caught many different ways, deep and shallow. You just have to cover a lot of area to find the sweet spots that are holding fish because they're just really spread out along the lake right now from deep to shallow. On the deep bite, also, hard bottom is the key there. Look for those rough spots where those fish have some clay bottom or some rock or some good wood around there. And look for the shad as well. You want to find a lot of shad during this transition time because they're going to want to be feeding on those shad. Now, over at Sam Rayburn, kind of a similar story. Water level's a little higher over there, though. It's still over full there. It's about a foot over pool level, and that really helps that shallow bite. So still, once again this week, still happening with the frog bite over there. And I'm hearing stories of guys catching a lot of numbers as well up shallow on a frog. You just got to get in the right stretch. It's just about covering that water until you find them. So you're going to want to stay moving quite a bit until you start getting bit. Don't sit still anywhere until you find a reason to do so. The deep bite is happening a little bit over there as well. It's out on the points, about 15 to 25 feet of water. Soft plastic and crankbaits are the deal there. Now up at Richland Chambers, there's a little bit behind those other two lakes. They're a little further north, and that water level there is hanging a little bit below pool level, and the water is very clear this year. Mr. Thurman Selman up there, he's talking about how clean the water is this year. He says the temperature's in the mid-70s right now, and the bass are pretty well completely done spawning. He says that fishing in the timber with plastics like that bass assassin fat job or a small swim bait gets those finicky post-spawn fish to bite lately. He says that soon enough, as the water warms up, it's going to start catching them flipping the bases of the big trees to catch those larger fish. So as it warms up, look to the base of that timber to get the bigger bite.
You better go fast, Matt. We got about a minute and a half.
All right, switching over to crappie. Lots of crappie coming from Toledo Bend this week, 15 to 25 feet of water. Jigs and live minnows are both catching them really good. And I've got a photo for you to throw up there of 5 ladies I had the pleasure of fishing with this past Memorial Day weekend, showing off some nice slabs there.
Fun.
Look at all those suns out, guns out. Look at those girls. Way to go.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us what else you got.
Kind of on Rayburn. The fish are a little slower getting out on Rayburn because the water's still pretty high, but there are some crappie starting to get out deep there. Kind of same thing on Richland Chambers, a little bit behind Toledo Bend and Rayburn, but crappie are slowly making their way out to those deeper treetops. Catfish, they've been piling up on the points, about 15 to 20 feet of water over on Toledo Bend. And then jumping back to Rayburn one more time, lots of white bass reports coming off Rayburn lately. Out on the main lake flats and points, jig and spoons are the ticket for catching them. Move those baits really fast and trigger those white bass to bite.
All right, bud, you got it all in. Good job. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots. He says the largemouth bass are in transition phase, head towards their summertime haunts. The crappie are gathering in large schools in the deep water. Catfish and white bass are on the points in 15 to 20 feet of water as well.
Well, Rick, you thought you were gonna get away with it. This is the tiniest little cake you probably ever had, but you know what? It's the only way I was gonna surprise you. So, your birthday's on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Happy birthday.
Talk amongst yourselves. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, boy.
Wait, I got one more thing.
I'm gonna start a fire.
One more thing. You did. You got it. You surprised
Cheetos.
me. You got it by me.
Yes! Are you gonna blow out your candle?
Yeah.
You've had a great year, and many more to come.
Don't put any spit on that. That's not
We're
good.
going to split that 20 ways.
I got more. I was just trying to surprise you.
Oh, you did.
I got him. You
She
never
got
get this
me.
guy.
She
You
got
thought we weren't gonna celebrate you. So what
I
are you doing
did.
for your birthday?
I'm going to the Keys for 4 days.
Why not?
With Mama, stay in the condo.
That's
That'll
gonna
be
be
very
so fun.
nice.
Are you gonna fish?
Yeah, of course. You
Silly
can't go to the
question.
Keys without your boat.
Silly question.
That's it.
Is the tarpon running right
So
now?
how old are you gonna be?
61.
61. And
61.
tons of fun.
That's it. Tell
Love
him,
it.
Bree.
Well,
Tell him.
off to your birthday weekend.
Yeah.
Off we go on our weekend into June. Everybody get out there, catch those fish.
I'm glad
Happy
everybody
Red
was
Snapper
safe
season.
on Memorial Day. That
And
was
we're
good.
happy y'all were
Yeah.
safe on Memorial Day.
Thanks,
We will
guys.
see you next week right here on the Fishing Report from Texas.